When Ebenezer Talks with Pastor Milton Bunting.
We're going to get started. I want to welcome Miss Shantel Nock to our podcast entitled When Ebenezer Talks. Miss Nock, tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you have.
Okay. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for allowing me to just share my organization and just giving me an opportunity to be on your podcast. But just a little bit about Empower with Words College Prep. I started the organization officially in 2018. And my biggest goal has been to assist the students and parents navigating the college process.
Okay.
And the reason why I started is because I saw a lack and a need that a lot of parents really just didn't know the information that was out here. So I wanted to be able to fill in that gap for a lot of parents because there was someone who assisted me along the way. So that's one of the reasons why I started an organization, Empower with Words.
I'm glad to finally meet you and hear that you are a native of the Eastern Shore, graduate of Nandor High School, my high school alma mater. What motivated you to pursue a college education?
Well, Pastor Button, you know the Eastern Shore, not a lot of resources there. I love where I grew up. I absolutely appreciated where I grew up. But when we talk about furthering and bettering ourselves when it comes economically, unfortunately, we really don't have a lot of resources compared to other areas. And one of the things that I did not want to do, I did not want that perpetual poverty cycle within my family. So I was never athletic. So sports was never going to be my way out. But my so honestly, education became that outlet for me. And I knew that that was going to better my opportunities in, within the economic arena, within the educational opportunities. I knew that by pursuing a college education was going to allow me to better support and assist my family.
Okay, very good. Very good. You come from a large family. We learned in our earlier conversation in preparation for tonight that you and I are related. Yeah, we're related, I believe, on my mother's side, which would be her father, my grandfather's side, on my mother's side, we're related. So that's very good. How critical is it for parents or guardians or grandparents to have a role in assisting their college-bound children in this process of scholarships and obtaining scholarships and things of that nature?
It's very critical, especially for those students who really do not know exactly what they want to do after high school. It's honestly a lot of pressure for students trying to figure out that transition. What's the next step? What do I do? And a lot of kids don't have that. So it's very critical and important for guardians, parents, grandparents to be involved in the process. And honestly, if a child does not have that internal motivation, then they kind of need that push from an outside source. So that's why it's very imperative for parents to kind of push their students, push their child, to better themselves. And honestly, if the parents don't know, that's why they have individuals such as pastors, mentors, educational coaches like myself to really assist them in that process if they don't know, or if they honestly don't have the time.
Now, you just said a word that I've never heard, and that's called an educational coach. Kind of explain that to our viewers, because that might be a new vocabulary word for us here on the Eastern Shore.
Okay. So I consider myself an education coach, and basically what that is I work with students one-on-one, and what I do is I help them create an individualized plan, and really figuring out exactly where they are in the process. And everybody is different. I work with ages or grades, ninth grade to 12th grade, and what I try to do is guide them through the process, give them specific strategies, whether it's again on time management, whether it's on how to apply or where to apply for scholarships. So basically kind of giving them strategies, motivating them, inspiring them, opening up their eyes on things that they didn't know through the process of preparing for college. So that
Okay.
is kind of my role through the process.
Okay. And so it's safe to say that in what you do, you help them with the federal application for student aid, or FISA, I think is what it's called,
Fast, but yes, sir.
FAFSA, and you
Yes,
help them meet their deadlines,
yes, sir.
which is
Yes.
very important and very critical. When I was getting ready to go to college back in 1994, I was very lazy. My mother tried hard to get me to apply for scholarships, and I was very timid. I didn't want, I thought it was, what word do I want to use? I thought it was embarrassing for me
hmm
to have to go and get scholarships or to apply or things of that nature. And it wasn't until I got older and realized how foolish that was, or how crazy that thinking was. And so, can you kind of touch base to let our viewers know just how important it is in this season, in this climate, that our children be pushed, if you will, to apply for these various financial resources, and what do we do? What are some early steps right now? Here it is
hmm
October. What are some early steps that parents need to be doing with their high school juniors and seniors, especially seniors, I would imagine? What should we be doing now?
As a parent, as a uh, whether education coach, counselor, whoever it is, pastor, this is the time. And honestly, I encourage parents not to wait until the last minute, but this is a time where you find those. Most parents, or excuse me, most students think that whether a parent makes too little or a parent makes too much, that I can't receive scholarships. But there are so many different resources that are in the community, whether it's a scholarship from a funeral home, or it's a scholarship from, I mean, anywhere. There's so many different places and resources where you can find scholarships. I think the most important thing right now for parents to do is to know exactly where to find the financial
Mhm.
resources and how to find them, because I think that's where where the stagnation come in, because a lot of times they don't know exactly where to begin. And honestly, starting as early as ninth grade, 10th grade, I mean, it's so important to do that when we talk about applying for scholarships. And again, even if you're a senior is looking for scholarships, again, there's so many different resources that are there. It's just knowing exactly. And one of the things that I created was a scholarship identifier. And basically what that is to help students kind of narrow down their search when they're searching for scholarships based upon criteria. This could be based upon their race, based upon their career interests, based upon income, and so forth. And this will kind of give them a filter on exactly where and how to find the resources that best suit them.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's talk about SATs and ACTs. At what grade level should our children begin to take the pre or the practice test, and what should parents be doing to help their children
Mhm.
prepare? Because sometimes the school divisions are so focused on other things like SOLs and what have you, that they don't focus on the importance talking about the SOL testing like they did when you and I were coming along and going to school.
Mhm.
What should parents, how should parents begin to help their children prepare? When should they start taking the practice? And what are some advice do you give us on that?
Okay, well, I will encourage parents and students to begin taking practice tests ninth and 10th grade. That's the time where you want to take the practice test. And granted, there are a lot of students who still have to take certain classes to get a certain skills and certain maths and things like that. So I honestly will encourage students to take the actual SAT or the actual ACT their junior as well as their senior year,
Mhm.
and take as many multiple practice tests in the ninth and the 10th grade. And how to prepare, I always say everyone has a cell phone, everyone has a computer.
Mhm.
There's so many different free resources that are online for students to look up. I always say, I tell my students all the time, if you have time to be on social media, then you have time to look up and practice a test, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That extra practice, the extra time that they put forth will give them the skills and the knowledge that they need to prepare them, for the test. So again, there's so many different resources. If parents can't afford to get a private tutor and the extra outside support. Also, when I was in high school, I remember there was actual SAT prep course, and I believe Mrs. Wells used to teach that. I'm not exactly sure if they provide that in high school anymore, but I remember that was an actual course that students could take to help them prepare in regards to the vocabulary. So
Mhm.
again, there's so many different resources. I honestly say it's just a matter of taking advantage of what's already out here, free resources.
Okay. Okay.
Mm,
I understand you have a webinar coming up
yes.
soon. Can you tell us
Yes.
something about that? Tell us some information and maybe give a website or how would they be able to join you in that webinar?
Yes, sir. So my team and I created webinar series the first Wednesday of every month. So this is the ongoing thing. Our next webinar is going to be November, I believe November the 4th, and we're going to talk about essay writing and essay writing basic tips. I mean, these are skills that students need to know in high school and college and so forth. And even if they're interested in applying for scholarship, these are tips that they need to learn or to gain when they're applying for scholarships. Another webinar that I have is December, and I believe that falls December the 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. And that's where I will kind of go in a little more detail on how to find scholarships and where to find scholarships for students. And again, these are all free webinars. You can, if you want more information, you can go to www.empowerwithwords.com, and there's a tab where it says free webinars. I encourage students and their parents to join, and it's free. And honestly, for security reasons, you have to register, just so I don't have to put it on the internet just for security purposes, but it's free for anyone to join.
Okay. Could you give us that website again?
Absolutely. It's www.empowerwithwords.com.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard that website. Please take advantage of that and go to that website and register so that you and your children can reap the benefits of what Miss Nock and her organization are doing. Let's talk about timing. When should students begin seeking and applying for this scholarship money?
As early as the ninth grade. It is never too early to begin. There's so many scholarships that are available to ninth grade students, but a lot of times when people or parents really think about, oh, college, they think about college junior and senior year.
Mhm.
But honestly, starting as early as ninth grade will be beneficial, especially if if parents have financial difficulty starting as early as ninth grade.
Okay. Okay, and so they can begin to apply as early as their freshman year and each year
Yes.
thereafter and all of that. Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes, yes. And I also on the website, the same website, I also my team and I created a scholarship database for students. So, again, there, like I said, we had created a scholarship identifier. So based upon the scholarship identifier for students, it really helps them if they're African American or if they are Hispanic. It really helps them narrow in their search so they can find those scholarship resources. So there's so many different resources that are out there that can be overwhelming, but what we try to do is consolidate and put it into like one location for parents and students.
okay, okay. Are there any strategies that you share to help teach students how to how to ask for help with the application process? Are there any specific strategies that you recommend?
Asking for help. Honestly, it depends on the student. I because every student is different. So I always, when I'm talking to my students, I always figure out their motivation and what are their goals. That's what I always figure out. And I use that to keep them, even if they're nervous and they might be in their shell, I always use that. I ask them, where do you see yourself and what do you want to do? And honestly, if they don't have the internal motivation, I have to like use that to kind of push them to ask for the extra support or the extra help that they need. So for me, I have to look at each student on an individual basis to really figure out what's their motivation. Are they the type of student that had the internal motivation where they want to go out there and they get it on their own, or do they need the extra support? And because again, they might be shy, might be in their shell. So again, for me, I look at it on an individualized basis.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
I guess this will be my last question. Um,
Okay.
the guidance department is so busy now with so many other obligations. It's not like it was in the 90s when I was going to school. You could just get a pass and go down to the guidance office and talk to
Right.
Miss Terry, talk to Mr.
Yes.
Hart, whenever your soul desired to do that. When I was in college, when I was in high school, Mr. Frank Carr, was the guidance counselor. And because of the relationship he had with my mother, they went to UMES together. I remember him telling me, Palmer, you're going to go to St. Paul's College. Now, I had never heard of St. Paul's College. I never heard of Lawrenceville, Virginia. I didn't know where it was. But he gave me a brochure. I went home. I talked to my mother about it, and she said, well, if Frank Carr says that's where you're going, that's where you're going. And so the rest is history. I did a 5-year stint at St. Paul's, graduated in 99. The rest is history. But it was different then. Guidance counselors had much more time, or they took time. What role, if any, do you think in 2020 should the guidance counselor play in helping our children get to this particular level?
Honestly, the guidance counselors, and I've seen it because I've worked with them, they are extremely busy. And when we talk about an area such as the Eastern Shore compared to an area where I live outside of DC, and the ratio from guidance counselors to student is ridiculous. It could be one guidance counselor to about 200 to 300 students, and that's overwhelming. So realistically, the guidance counselor cannot give that one-on-one attention that students need because it's just not realistic. What I believe and what I suggest when you have those cases like that, this is why it's imperative for schools and districts to incorporate those, back to school nights, those college nights, those fairs, for students to really get that guidance from the guidance counselor. If a guidance counselor unfortunately don't have the time, like during a regular day, then my suggestion is to set up those workshops, set up those things outside of school where students can have an opportunity to meet with their counselor, and the counselor can help guide them, whether it's reviewing an application, whether it's showing them again, like what school will best fit them based upon their GPA or based upon their SAT score and so forth. So again, there, even though, times have changed, but I feel like, again, rather than that might be a challenge, but what's the solution? And my recommendation, what I think when we are faced with this situation is, hey, let's create something. Why don't we do workshops or, career fairs or, some type of event where guidance counselors can still provide that assistance that students need. But again, that's a lot of things to go through in order to get that accomplished. But I think it's imperative for guidance counselors to be involved in the process. Honestly, that's their role.
Okay. We thank you for taking time this evening to spend with us and to share for your hometown some vital information on scholarships. I am the moderator for our association, and in February, we normally have our midwinter session. If it's all humanly possible, we would love to pay your way to come home on a Friday evening and present this information in person. It providing all of the corona and all of that other stuff has died down some. We would love to get you to come down and present in person to some of our churches so that they could see you and be able to put a name to a face and ask questions and get some information. Maybe you could do an in-person webinar on this stuff, because it's very, very important to the future of our children. Our next generation needs all the help they can get, because from what I'm gathering, college tuition is really through the roof. And so I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you spending time with us this evening. Give that website one more time so our guests tonight can join in your webinar.
Okay, it's empowerwithwords.com. So www.empowerwithwords.com.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from Sister Nock, Miss Shantel Nock. We thank you once again. And we thank all of you tonight for being on our podcast when Ebenezer Talks. Have a wonderful evening, Miss Nock. God bless you. And we'll be talking to you very soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care.
Oh, great. Thank you, sir. You have a great evening. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
When Ebenezer Talks with Pastor Milton Bunting.